Hi, my name is John, and this is Monday Checklist. In today's video, we'll be talking about some of the big success in the box office, none other than Super Mario Bros. So if you haven't watched it, I do highly recommend watching those films. It's nothing too technical, too complicated, but it's a fun film and it's a short one. You do get the feel if you watch a typical film, English film that's too long. You feel tired once you get out. But we'll take a look at some of the big box office this past few weeks or months, and you may have noticed I haven't done any sort of box office review in these past few months since late last year, I think, because there were not so many films that you could look forward to or share with you guys. So let's take a look at some of the best films for this year so far, and none more so than the first one, Super Mario Bros. So as you can see here, according to the numbers.com, for the worldwide box office for the year 2023, you can see, despite the recent launch only of the film, let's take a look here. It has already generated close to 900 million, which suffice to say, I think it will surpass the 1 billion mark confidently. If we see the box office performance, it's only was launched or released early this month. And in a span of a month, less than a month, it has already generated this significant amount of performance. This, as you can see here, generated close to a little over 400 million in the domestic US box office. And it's not just in the domestic box office, it's doing well, but as you can see, it's doing well also internationally, meaning people in the US and outside of the United States are enjoying the film. And based on my watching with my kids, and it was fun. And that's the whole point of watching films, is to be entertained regardless of the genre. And obviously Disney should have been not say pioneers, but at the forefront of this, with their big budget and big catalogs of animated films. And yet they missed the mark here in several aspects. With think about Lightyear, how terrible it was, with all of the identity politics that they want to incorporate in the film. And now there have been reports that they're going to go back to the success that was Toy Story. They're going to make a fifth version, which is pretty scary. If have they gone milk the franchise for so long? Should they continue the franchise here? And let's take a look at the trailer here for Warner Brothers. And I was pretty surprised to see the how they made it. Obviously it's animated. Now the voice actors could have been a big mistake when they casted Chris Pratt, sorry, not Chris Pine. And it's nothing too problematic. And it made sense for the story. The fact that Shigeru Miyamoto was part on the story narrative to ensure the authenticity of the characters played by different characters. Even Bowser, I think, who was played by, was it Seth Rogen? I forgot who was the actor who played him. Was compelling enough. And actually, if they want to continue with the franchise, they could continue with the sequel, or even have a standalone film for what do you call this? For Luigi, since they already had a game that's based on Luigi, which is Luigi's Mansion, which I think they should capitalize on it, as long as they do justice to the main characters here. And if you think of Nintendo, they have a plethora of characters that they could translate into the movies, right? Zelda comes to mind, but that's a very difficult thing to do because of its expansiveness and how they going to turn the silent protagonist, which is Link, to a voiced acted role, which is kind of difficult. And they have to choose the right actor, not just any actor for that role. And then you have Metroid, and a whole lot more of characters that Nintendo could utilize and compete with the likes of Disney here, which goes to show that people are cramming for great content. If studios are going to create great films, people are going to watch it. If not, no one's going to watch it. And then going back, so as you can see here, the top five, you have two Chinese films in the second and third position. But what's interesting here is even though Ant-Man is the number four spot, but if you look at the worldwide box office, it's only generated less than 500 million. And for an MCU film, that's pretty abysmal compared to the other films that they've showcased here, which is obviously they've missed the mark here. And obviously, do people I mean, do we even need a third film from an Ant-Man, which is a side character in the Marvel universe here? And obviously, you have to do right with the story if they want to incorporate it. And I've watched the film, and looking at the content that the reason why they were in the Quantum Mania is because of spoilers ahead, of because of the mom's mistake. So if the mom didn't make a terrible mistake, the film wouldn't make sense already. And they try to tie it in with the antagonist, which is Kang. And which was for me, it was too forced in the story. And obviously the results speaks for themselves. And how are they going to progress with it, with the issue that is with Mr. Majors here, who played the character of Kang here, is another story altogether. So I don't know if we keep on going back the performance of Marvel films since the Endgame, since Endgame, with the exception of Spider-Man No Way Home, every film that has been released since hasn't been faring well. Is it because of oversaturation, people getting tired, or is the content not compelling anymore compared to previous films? Now, sticking to the other top films, so you have number five, which I've watched also, John Wick Chapter 4. Now, it's a bit, for me anyway, the first is still the best one. Now, it did really well in terms of popularity domestically and internationally. Now, obviously, it's a very action-packed, very gory type of film. It still generated a little over $250 million, which obviously concludes the story here. Now, I would have preferred that he would have gone off to the sunset in his way, but in the matter in which that they portrayed the third act was okay. I mean, but the action part is what we all came to watch here. Especially, the first part was really very tight in the story in terms of how John Wick started, who the character is, and how it played out throughout the film. Obviously, they continued that with the sequels all the way to the last one. But for me anyhow, that I think they're going to expand on it with the TV series, the Intercontinental, the standalone, where there's no John Wick before John Wick came to be. I don't think it's going to do well, because obviously it made sense for the film because of the actor, which is Keanu Reeves. People came to watch Keanu Reeves, not because of the world that it envelops in. It just so happens that the story is very compelling. Not that it's very complicated, it's a very straightforward film, but nonetheless, people are entertained, and people are clamoring for great content. And obviously, we're always looking forward to more Keanu Reeves film, and hopefully a sequel or reboot of John Constantine, with him helming the what do you call this? Helming the titular role would have been interesting. Now, obviously, in this film, there's another protagonist or antagonist, you want to call it, with Mr. Donnie Yen playing the character, which is obviously known for his action film also. So it made for an interesting counterbalance of how threatening John Wick is versus the many people that is in the assassin's role, so to speak here. And also one of the main characters, the host of the Intercontinental, sadly in the world, has already passed away. Made for compelling, supporting role, and not necessarily more budget will necessitate more success. And obviously, they heavily relied on CGI to improve the aesthetics here. But I think minimal budget when they started. If you have a great story here, is always compelling no matter the situation here. And I think it's a great fitting end for a main character here, which is John Wick here. But anyway, so going back to the top films, so as you can see here, we're still in the midway mark. It's almost half a year. We're already end of April. It's May, June is around the corner. So the top 10 rounding off, you have Creed 3. I haven't watched this, but for me it's a big it's a big I would say it's a big flop. But too much Rocky, being similar trajectory or team, which is based on the Rocky team. I think has it's doing well because if the budget is as mentioned here, it only spent less than 100 million, and they were able to generate close to 300 million. I think they've done their part here. And as you can see here, the latest release of Dungeons and Dragons, which interesting now, I was able to watch it recently with my family, and it was pretty interesting. I would say it's top notch. And if you're not familiar with the Dungeons and Dragons concepts, the tabletop game, obviously it would be difficult to follow. Now the story is not too compelling, but it's interesting enough and fun enough for the majority who are able to enjoy, watch a simple game with, well, actually, there's not much Dungeons and Dragons in the film, so I don't know how they were able to pull it off. But anyway, but what's interesting here, what's not in the top 10 that was released this year is Shazam. Now, I was not expecting it's going to do well, but at least do similar at how it did when it was first launched before. But obviously, with the result of just a little over 100 million, that's pretty abysmal. And obviously, that was abysmal not because of people not coming out in droves, but the film in general is that terrible in terms of the plot lines. There's supposed to be a protagonist, the hero, which is there was no character development since from the first film, and then the antagonist, the villains in this case, and then the villains became sort of the good guys also, which is kind of confusing. And obviously, if it's not clear in the storyline, do we even need to see a sequel for this character, which is was pitted supposed to be Shazam fighting Superman, which was canceled already, where Black Adam was supposed to be part of the story arc. Well, obviously that didn't happen, and it didn't make sense for this sequel. And obviously that's money not well spent. If you haven't watched it, then you're on the on the right here. And obviously they could have done much better in the story arc, which is pretty interesting. That's why I'm pretty concerned regarding the Flash Paradox film, with issues to Ezra Miller's personal life. Now the question here is, will they stick to the story here, or we're going to deviate from it and create their own storytelling, which is going to disappoint a lot of fans here. But we'll see here. And I'll keep everyone updated with the other films that's being released as the months pass by, and update. I have a strong feeling that Super Mario Bros. Will maintain the number one spot for the foreseeable futures. Now, there's still other films going to be released later this year. I don't think Guardians of the Galaxy is going to hit the 1 billion mark. It's going to do okay, but not spectacular anymore. And obviously, they're winding down. And what's next for the Marvel Cinematic Universe? I think they're saving grace. They should have integrated the Fantastic Four characters in the story. I think they would have elevated the MCU universe. That's my opinion, anyhow. Anyway, I think that's about it. So come back again on Monday for more Monday checklist, for more news, tips, tutorials, or even discussions of news. Stay here for Business Focus. You can also check out my other video every Wednesday for business update, and for live discussion podcast style every Fridays or Saturday-ish of Business Focus Live here. Anyway, as always, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.